Our second speaker today is someone who is notorious for their off-the-grid approach to life, which is as appealing as it is unusual. It is an idea that has gained considerable traction, with plenty of people signing up to it, as they seek to create parallel spaces in which to survive. A place away from the corruption of the woke mind virus and very much within the embrace of the natural world. So, please give a generous hand to the Woodlander.
We've even got a box to stand on. That's quite cool, isn't it? It's like a surrogate tree trunk. Firstly, let me thank Mark and Laura for inviting me here today to speak to you lot. It's good for me. It's not so good for you lot. We're going to lock the doors, and for the next 25 minutes, you're going to have to listen to the unsolicited ramblings of an old man who lives in the woods. And I'm not going to talk about going off-grid. I'm not going to talk about chickens. I'm going to talk about alternatives. And I'm going to start by reading a list, and I know that lists are boring, but bear with it and use it as a history lesson. See how many of these you recognise. The British League of Ex-Servicemen, the British People's Party, the English National Association, the Union Movement, the British Empire Party, the League of Empire Loyalists, the White Defence League, the National Labour Party, the British National Party, Mark I, the National Socialist Movement, the Greater Britain Movement, the British Movement, the Racial Preservation Society, the National Democratic Party, the National Front, the National Independence Party, the National Party, the November the 9th Society, the British Democrat Party, the Constitutional Movement, the British Defence League, the National Party of St George, the Newcastle Democratic Movement, the National Socialist British Workers' Party, the National Assembly, the National Democratic Freedom Movement, the Britannia Party, the British National Party Mark II, the National Socialist Action Party, Our Nation, Official National Front, the Flag Group, the International Third Position, the Association of British Ex-Servicemen, National Action Party, UK Patriotic Front, National Socialist Workers Initiative, English Solidarity, the National Democrats, the National Socialist Movement, the British Resistance, the White Nationalist Party, the England First Party, the Nationalist Alliance, the British People's Party, the New Nationalist Party, National Action, Britannica Party, Britain First, For Britain, the British Democrats. And that's not all of them, but it's a lot of the political parties and organisations since 1940 that in the UK have tried to gain power through the party political route. And they all failed. Every one of them. They all had successes along their chosen path, but even those successes were short-lived and nothing endured. Now, we could spend the next 3 days talking about why they failed. Bad optics. They were too hardline. They weren't hardline enough. There's photos of the leader wearing Hugo Boss. And we've all heard these arguments. But the truth is, there's nothing else these groups could have done. Every avenue was explored. Every way was tried on that political route. And it all ended with failure. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a video and I told a story. I told a story about when I was a young man and I had my second home and I wanted to tile a wall in my kitchen. And I'd never done anything like that before, but I figured I could do it. So I bought some tiles, and I went round my father's house, and he said there was some tile adhesive in the shed. So I went in and I picked up the tub of tile adhesive. Now, unbeknown to me, I picked up the wrong tub, and I picked up an old tub that he'd cleaned out and put wallpaper paste in. And you kind of guess it, and some of you have seen the video. But I took that home and I tried to stick my tiles to the wall with wallpaper paste. I didn't know any better. And I put the tiles on and they'd slide down and they'd fall off. But I didn't want to be defeated. So I continued and I tried. And I had household implements holding these tiles up. And I was holding them up with my arms and my feet and my head. And I had tins of beans holding these tiles up. And after 10 hours, I tiled the wall. Success. And later that evening, I went to bed, and I lay in bed, and I listened to every single tile fall off and smash on the floor. And that's like nationalism over the last 100 years. We try so hard. We put in so much effort. And the success we have is short-lived. Nationalists have been given wallpaper paste to tile their wall. The adhesive we've been given is the party political route. It won't work. And any success we do have will be short-lived. I'll be honest. The system is quite happy for nationalists to start political parties and proceed down the path that they have laid for you. And that path leads down to a dead end. And for 100 years, it's a path we've trodden. And we've got to realise it's a mistake. We've wasted so much time, so much effort, continually doing the wrong thing. And I say we choose not to waste our time, not to waste our effort. We choose not to take the path they want us to go down. We go our own way. So if the party political route is blocked, what can we do? Well, we need to initially do something we don't do enough of, which is discuss what it is we do want. Because we're all very good at telling people what we don't want. It's easy to identify the negatives and point them out in society. In today's society, there's a vast array of negatives. But we need to build a vision. We need to paint a picture of the future we do want. And when we have that vision, when we have that ideal, when we've got something that people can get behind, that positive, the most important thing is we then need to build it. We need to take it into the real world. We need to start building that alternative. Our own businesses, our own institutions. We need our own schools with our own rules. We need our own areas. We need our own land. We need our own buildings. We need our own conference centres. We need our own communities for our own culture. And it is down to us to start building it. And PA have been very successful over the last 4 years with their activism. And there's a time and there's a place for activism. But just as important as the banner and the leaflet is the laugh and the conversations. So get together as groups, socially, go for a meal, visit an attraction, go to a gig, have family days. Because as hard as they make it, we can still enjoy life. We can share good times together. And we know that we can do great things. I'm talking about building a parallel society. And it sounds like a grand plan, a huge undertaking. But in reality, it's far easier to start again rather than trying to change a corrupt system whilst being crippled by that system's rules. And parallel societies are nothing new. They've existed for as long as societies have existed. It's people or groups that wish to live a different way from the society they find themselves in. And today, I would say that's a sensible conclusion. But can it work? Well, in our sphere, I would say the most obvious example would be Irania in South Africa, where the Afrikaners bought some land, and then they built a barn, and then they bought some more land, and they built a farm, and then they built some more land, bought some more land, and they built homes, and then they had a village, and then they had a town, and now they've got a city, and most importantly, it's theirs. They decide who lives there. They decide who works there. And now you've got the government in South Africa asking the people that run Irania for help and guidance on how to make South Africa work. It's gone full circle. You have Dan Erickson and a speaker who you're going to hear from later today, and the Free Sweden movement in Sweden. Now, they bought a conference hall, and then they bought a local business, and then they bought a block of flats, and then they bought some more property, and now they own the village. And that village stands as an alternative. It stands as a beacon surrounded by darkness, where every other town around becomes more diverse, more corrupt. And the people can see it, and they're like, that's what we want, because they built it. In America, you have the Return to the Land group. Now, they purchased over 135 acres of land in the Ozarks region. They built homes. They started small holdings. They started businesses. And pretty soon there'll be more people in what they've built than there is in the local town. And at that point, the political representatives will be theirs. The local sheriff will be theirs. They gained real power by not going the political route and building it themselves. And it grows every day. And throughout history, for me, one of the most interesting examples of a parallel society was in the Czech Republic. When the communists took over that area, when Russia moved in, the population started a parallel society. They had their own literature, they had their own media, they had their own meeting places, they had their own shops and businesses. And more of the population got involved with that parallel society. And in the end, the Russians had a choice: put everyone in prison or leave. And without one bullet being fired, the Russians pulled out. And the levers of power for that country were given to the leaders of that parallel society. So there's proof out there that this way works. By taking this path, we not only build for today, we not only improve things for ourselves and our people now, but we put in place those structures and businesses and institutions that will last into the future. And that's important. I'll emphasise it. Can anyone in here tell me where the BUF library is? No. What about the National Front Conference Centre? What about the BNP sports and recreational facilities? No one. And that's because they don't exist. And they don't exist because the money, time, and effort that could have gone into creating those things went into local elections. and general elections. That all failed. Millions of man-hours, thousands of people, with nothing to show for it. We can't keep making the same mistakes. As things get progressively worse in the society that we live in, people will start to look for a way out. And it has to be us that offers that alternative. We need to be in place to offer something viable, something that can grow and something that can last. We have been addicted to doing things the same way for 100 years. And as with all addictions, the first step is to admit that there's a problem. And more importantly, the second step is to stop doing what you've been doing. We are capable of building a society of beauty, of honour, of pride, of loyalty, a society that respects its people and its land, a society that moves forward into the future with a shared purpose to be the very best. And all of that starts by making the decision to go our own way, to do something that's not been done before. And that starts with us. So thank you.